So we're here today talking to Adam Welch, who's a freelance musician in the Milton Keynes area. Hi, Adam.
Hi, Joe.
How are you?
Good, you?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks for having us over. We're here today to talk to you about your home studio and how the digital workspace can really make a flexible environment for someone like yourself to work. So can you tell us a little bit, first of all, about how the workspace that you have using the home studio, how convenient is that to you?
Well, it's very convenient. If I'm feeling creative at any point or I want to record, I can do it whenever I like. So if it's early hours of the evening, I could do it, or in the morning, afternoon.
Yeah.
I don't have to book the studio. I can just come in whenever I like.
Brilliant.
It's obviously a lot cheaper as well, which is great.
And how does that feed into some of the freelance work that you do?
Well, if I get someone wanting me to do a job for them, I can turn it around much quicker because I don't have to book the studio. I can just go in straight away and just turn it around really
and you've
quickly.
got all the kit that you're familiar with here. It's all set up ready to go, so you don't need to start fiddling around with trying to learn a new piece of equipment.
That's right,
like that. Yeah. Or standing in the studio suddenly wishing you really had that effect that you really like. Something like that.
Yeah, you get familiar with your own gear. So
Excellent. So specifically, what kind of equipment have you got? Could you tell us a little bit about it and how that kind of fits into your recording workflow?
Yeah, sure. I use a PC running Cakewalk Sonar sequencing software. I've got a Mac-I desk, which is 24 tracks, which I can expand to more tracks if I like. I've got a Line 6 guitar effects unit, which is what I use with all the guitars, a Behringer bass unit, a MIDI keyboard for pads and strings, and to trigger samples. And I sometimes direct input into my sound card and use soft synths and plugins to manipulate sounds after.
And so when you're recording something like guitar, you're plugging your guitar directly into the Line 6 device, which then runs into your computer.
Sure, yeah.
And so you don't need to bother about amplification, anything like that. I mean, sitting behind me out of shot is actually quite a large and very nice valve amp, which is really large and probably very loud.
Indeed, yeah.
Which you don't want necessarily to be running up and having to mic up all the time, especially in a small space.
Yeah, and neighbours obviously could be a problem if you've got the amp very loud and you're recording. So with direct recording, you can just do it with earphones in the middle of the night, or it's just much easier, but like you say, without having to mic stuff up.
Sure. Excellent. So could you ever see yourself actually stepping into a sort of proper studio and using sort of analog gear in a recording environment? And can you see any advantages to that?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. If you're recording as a live band, or you want to use drums, like a live drummer, and vocals, I think it's important to use a real studio. And like if you want to record a valve amp, obviously you need the volume there to pick up the sound properly. So I think there's definitely advantages of a real proper studio as opposed to the home studio.
And you mentioned there about valve amplification. Obviously, you use that quite a lot if you're playing live.
Sure.
It's a purely analog-based system, obviously. Can you speak a little bit about the advantages of that to you?
Well, as a guitarist, a lot of guitarists believe that valve amps sound warmer than digital amps, which I agree with. But I think for recording, the digital stuff does actually sounds fine for recording. But I probably wouldn't use digital stuff live. I would use valve amps.
No.
But for recording, it does work.
Yeah, sure. And obviously, if you're playing live as well, you've got problems perhaps with things like reliability of computer systems and the likes. Maybe something might crash, go down. Whereas with an amp, there's things that can go wrong, but on the whole, if you look after them.
Yeah, you just plug in and you're ready, aren't you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So one of the common problems that I think I can see with the home studio environment is drums and recording drums, especially with something like your kind of music, which is perhaps slightly more rock-based. You need a nice set of drums. How do you cope with that in the home studio environment?
Well, I use drum loops from a CD.
Right.
Or I program the drums via MIDI.
Okay.
So that's how I overcome it.
So it all sort of stays in and around the computer-based system, and there's no actual drum kit involved with that at all.
Yeah, but with the loops, it's actually real drummers recorded in small bars, if you like, and then you can cut and paste the drums how you like.
Excellent.
So obviously it's much easier to do, and you don't have to worry about the volume.
Which is brilliant. Adds that level of flexibility.
And if you wanted to use a real drummer, you could use a MIDI drum kit to trigger the loops, if you like, or the samples.
Yeah. So you mentioned at the beginning about your CD, which is on general release. So you obviously recorded it and mixed it all yourself.
Yeah.
But how about the mastering stage? It's quite a specialist thing. How did you cope with that?
Well, I got the album mastered by a professional studio, Blue Pro Studios in London.
Sure.
They've done a really great job. And I think it's important if you do your own album to get a second pair of ears, like
Right.
expert ears, to really give you a nice finished product.
Yeah.
And they did a really great job, because mastering is an art form in itself. So
Yeah.
I felt I needed
Absolutely.
experts to do that for me.
And you were talking also about even through the mixing process before sending it to mastering, you were getting different people to listen to it. Do you think that that's a really valuable point?
I think so. I think you do need opinions, because your ears can get tired if you listen over and over to something. And it's important to have a rest when you are mixing something. If you're doing it for hours on end, you need to take a break, come back to it.
Okay.
And play your mixes on different stereos, car stereos, different things like that, so you can really get a good idea of how the mix sounds before you send it off to be mastered.
And so finally, the distribution of your CD, which is called Undying Fire. I understand you did that as well.
Yep.
And that was done through a service on the web. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
The people who distribute my album is called CD Baby, which is an American-based distribution company. And they get all your music onto iTunes, Amazon, Napster, various online shops like that. So that's a really great way of an independent artist to get your music out there.